You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. Disney.
Well, there you all are. Boy, I'll tell you, you're all coming in for Anne-Marie's program. We're glad you're with us tonight. Well, my name's Rick Farron. I am here at the control panel of the Six Screens right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And I know you're going to love the programming tonight. Friends, we have been doing this for a number of years, like I say, 20 years. And we are here because you are here. Many people rely on this. They call in live, as you will be hearing many ex-witnesses, Jehovah's Witnesses calling in tonight and voicing their concerns. We have a program here. It's entitled Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. I'll tell you what, things are really happening. And I know you guys, I always say I'm excited and getting all revved up here, but I really am. When I see what's going on around the world with Jehovah's Witnesses, it really makes my heart glad to see the tarnished image. People are catching up on these bums. And it's amazing to me. You guys have been watching YouTube videos this week and reading forums like Reddit and JWN. You know the witnesses are in big time trouble in Norway. And we'll be talking a lot about that tonight on JW World News. But when I see countries coming down on these creeps, it makes me very, very happy. And another lady it makes very happy, another woman, I should say, that makes happy. I'm a man, she's a woman. But I'll tell you what, I mean, she's very happy tonight, too, with what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. So, Anne-Marie, hello.
Hello, my brother Rick.
Yeah.
Happy Six Screens once again.
Yeah, no, here we are, boy. I'll tell you, Anne-Marie, it's almost like I can't believe how fast a week goes by. And it's just absolutely phenomenal that happens. But, I'll tell you, Anne-Marie, I'm going to find something that's going to make your heart glad. I had a woman. Let me see if someone calling me. Oh, God. You hold on there, Anne-Marie. But I had a woman write me about your program, and she really likes it. And she came up with a good idea. She says, I want Anne-Marie sometime to discuss this subject. Let me just get the subject here. If I can find it real quick. I had it all up, and then for some reason I lost it. Maybe it's here. No, it's not there. Hold on one second, Anne-Marie. But anyways, I wanted to read you. Oh, here it is here. A woman by the name, I'll just call her Shannon. I won't give her last name. But she says she calls you Sister Anne-Marie. And she loves your program. And she has a message that she sent me. Yeah, she has a message she sent me. And she says, I would like to submit the following subject for a future show on your program. This is the title of the show. She wants a show that says Tall Tales, Urban Legends, and Unexplained Phenomena in the Watchtower. So that's kind of interesting. So maybe some week we'll do that, huh?
Yeah. Tall Tales, Urban Legends, and what was the rest of it, please?
Unexplained Phenomena.
Oh.
well, I mean, I get the human legends, urban legends, I should say. That I get. Those are like crazy stories that, they have a lot that spread throughout the Watchtower world, how the brothers and sisters had to cross the Congo River with crocodiles up to their knees and lugging babies and book bags. That's an urban legend. That's not true. And then also the idea of tall tales. Well, there's a lot of tall tales, Anne-Marie, in the Watchtower. I'm just thinking of some offhand that I can think of off the top of my head. And one of the biggest tall tales is about the two sisters that went to the door, and there was a rapist and a murderer, and he was all set to kill and rape the sisters, but there was a big angel standing next to them. I think that's a pretty tall tale. Now, I'm thinking of this unexplained phenomena. What would you think about that, Anne-Marie?
Well, last time I said anything, I got shot down by somebody on the six screens and said everything I said was demonism and that people shouldn't listen to me. So I'm not going to give my opinion.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking. Yeah. Well, I'm wondering what Shannon is thinking about when she thinks of unexplained phenomena. Well, maybe I can step here. I'm just kind of thinking of what that would be. Maybe the audience is aware of what an unexplained phenomena would be, but I'll tell you something that's unexplained. This idea of, why is it that in many cases, if you have immorality in a congregation, you have a sister that commits immorality with an elder, no one ever finds out about it. But the average Joe rank and file guy, he gets kicked out of the congregation pretty darn fast and disfellowshipped. I would call that unexplained phenomena. There's a lot of that in Watchtower.
Well, like they say, it's all about politics, for lack of a better phrase. In the Watchtower, it's who you are or who you're married to or who you're connected to, who you know. If you are an elder's wife or if you are connected to somebody who's high up in the organization, it's amazing how different your life will be than one who is basically at the mercy of anybody in the Watchtower. Lots of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of not.
I do like the title, though. I like it. I like it. Tall Tales, Urban Legends, and Unexplained Phenomena. I think of another unexplained phenomenon. I got this stuff running through my head right now. I think of it's rather strange. Say you have a Jehovah's Witness man, and he might have done something wrong. Maybe he stole something. Maybe he had immorality or adultery or something like that. Immorality with a woman. So he goes and he confesses to the elders. Look, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It's bothering my conscience. I really need help here. Please help me. Well, they disfellowship him. That's kind of that's unexplained phenomena right there. Not normally you would think that a Christian religion would say, "Well, look at sir, we'll help you, brother. We'll help you. Let's sit down and talk about this." But a person is instantly disfellowshipped when they bring that up. So that's unexplained phenomena right there.
Well, the thing is, we have to keep reminding ourselves sometimes that Christianity and believing in the Christian faith has nothing to do with Watchtower. Watchtower is not promoting Christ. They don't follow Christ. They don't promote Christ. They demote Christ. And when Christ is all about his sacrifice and what he did for us, covers our sins if we just confess our sins, and in the blood of Christ we are forgiven. But the Gestapo elders, oh no, they're all about slapping you down, stomping you down, especially when you're absolutely broken. They don't try to hold you up and comfort you. They stomp on you while you're crying in the dirt, And I know from personal experience, telling you what a piece of garbage you are and how you brought shame on everybody in the congregation. And we took you in, you and your children, like a millstone around our neck. And this is the thanks we get, a slap in the face. But this is just some of the things the elder said to me. And I even hadn't done anything. I was always trying to be the best Jehovah's Witness I could be every minute of my life. And I was just treated like the worst piece of garbage. And I know my story is nothing. There's thousands of them. But to me, unexplained phenomenon, people have brought out that in the Watchtower, there tends to be more demon experiences. And some people don't think the demons are real. Yeah, they're real. Believe me. And, there have been so many stories where sisters will say, some demon was in engaging with them sexually at night, and they knew it was a demon and they were scared. And of course, the gossip mill has to add all kinds of juicy tidbits and just think it's something funny or made up, and it has to be a terrifying thing. So I know there are a lot of demon experiences that are pretty scary when you're in the Watchtower. And the funny thing is, after I got out of the Watchtower, I didn't have any more of that problem. And I know a lot of people were having that problem. And the elders couldn't seem to help. They were like, well, just pray and, try to keep your mind off of it and read the Bible and listen to the Christian music. Because back in the old days, they had all that kingdom melodies that you could play at home. Anyway, are we going to introduce the show, my brother?
Yeah. In fact, I'll cut you loose and you can introduce your show. And I'm here if you need me. So you go ahead and do your thing. So you're sounding good tonight. You're sounding like you're all revved up and ready to go.
I do my best, my dear. My best.
Good girl. Okay. Thank you, Emery.
Thank you, my brother Rick. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming today. Today is February 8th, 2025. It is Saturday, Six Screen Saturday, my favorite day of the week. I want to thank you all for tuning in to today's first show of the weekend, touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower, as we all were. Even our relatives or friends that were never in the Watchtower, they were touched too, because how we were affected others. Again, I would like to welcome everyone. I always want to welcome the PIMQs because they don't seem to get recognition. People will talk about the PIMIs, those physically in and mentally completely in the Watchtower, totally believing the Watchtower. Their minds are completely taken over. And then people will acknowledge the PIMOs, those who are still physically in the Watchtower, just trying their best to play the game, hoping maybe to get their family out, don't want to lose their family, but mentally they are out. They have done the research. They've gone through the stage of not sure what's going on, questioning, and then finally did the research and found out what Watchtower really is. But there's an in-between stage, and those are the PIMQs. Those are the ones that have been faithful to the Watchtower, believing the Watchtower, making excuses for things that bother them, swallowing it down with, well, they're just imperfect men. Well, Jehovah will take care of it. Well, I should just read more of the Bible and pray more and be in service more, and I shouldn't let Satan take over my mind. But the PIMQs down deep, they are physically in, but mentally they are questioning. And when they get to the point where they're mentally questioning and they can't just wave away or excuse away their questions, their concerns, things that bother them, it can get scary, because part of the Watchtower's mind control programming tells the Jehovah's Witness, if you question the governing body, if you question the Watchtower, you're letting Satan take over your mind, and you better get yourself back in line with, the program. So it's a scary thing because they can't talk to anybody. So I always especially welcome the PIMQs. Anybody who calls in, they're probably in the mode of searching. Maybe they are all the way out mentally, and it's a comfort to know that they can call in or listen in to the 6 screens, because the 6 screens that Rick Barron provides every week without fail is a safe place where we can listen freely, we can speak freely, comment freely, share freely. And we know that everybody who's listening to us actually gets it, actually understands. So Rick brought up an idea of a dear sister that wanted us today to talk about tall tales, urban legends, and unexplained phenomena. And believe me, all of these things have definitely gone on in the Watchtower organization. I've heard a few tall tales and urban legends, and to me, unexplained phenomena has to be with just things that happen outside the regular third dimensional reality. If you can see it, smell it, touch it, oh, that's third dimensional reality, and it makes sense. But there are things that happen beyond the third dimension, and when it happens to somebody and they get scared, it's really scary. So anyway, I'm just rambling because I have a lot of things on my mind about Watchtower. So I would like to please, everyone, feel free. If anyone's listening right now, please feel free to hit *6, share a comment, share a story, share something that maybe scared you or scared somebody you know, because unexplained phenomena has happened more than some people will be willing to admit in the Watchtower. Anybody like to comment, share a thought? *6. I remember hearing about, well, I'll say it anyway, even if a certain person does say I'm demonic, I don't care. I'm sick of it anyway, because I have experienced demon attacks. It's a pretty horrible thing. And what helped me was fervent prayer and constantly reading the Psalms and just talking to Jehovah, talking to God, Jesus, 24 hours a day. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello?
Hi, how are you, Ken?
Oh, not too bad. Haven't got a hold of Jay lately. I'm going to keep trying. We've been having some terrible weather over here. It's so nice when you can be inside here. We've had some terrible weather up here in the Upper Peninsula. Bad snowstorm last night. I had to get up and go get a passenger, so... Yeah, I appreciate that comment about unexplained phenomenon or whatever it is there. How about bizarre and macabre phenomenon? That's what goes on in the Watchtower Society. How about that? You know, their actions and so forth. Because, yeah, their actions is really something else. And
do you have a particular example of something you heard, Ken?
Well, for one thing, you can, I don't know how to explain it here, but they go contrary to other religious beliefs and so forth. And they keep on, well, when they go to study with somebody, their interest is not to, educate somebody in a religious way. Their motivation is control of somebody. They want to try to brainwash and control somebody, off and on. And then when you don't do it their way, they turn around and they leave, or else if a person becomes a member, they get rid of them. They put them, just like you said a minute ago. So they go contrary to any other religion. So that's why that descriptions that's been given them is really appropriate.
Thank you, Ken. Do you have a story maybe you have heard or something you experienced, in the unexplained phenomena or a tall tale or an urban legend? Do you have any comment or anything to add in that direction?
No, not really, not at the present time, but if something comes to mind, I'll definitely call it in. But all I can tell you right now is I was heavily involved with the Watchtower Society at one time. They used my place as a stomping ground because their Kingdom Hall was like, approximately 20 miles away, depending on which route you took. And I think the closest church when I was living years ago was probably 10 miles away, and so forth. And I found that I can't go into everything right now, but they've caused a lot of trouble for me by their doctrines and so forth, and I kind of fell for them for a while until I had to wake up and find out that they were just leading me down to the dark alley.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
You don't have, like, we heard tall tales like Rick said out. I don't know how many times over the years the brothers would share about, we shouldn't make excuses for missing the meetings if we're sick or our car broke down or it's a snowstorm or a rainstorm. We should be there. Jehovah has invited us to his table of spiritual food and well-oiled dishes. And then they give these crazy stories about people in the Amazon or some other crazy place, crossing crocodile vespers. I mean, like, Does that even make sense? Is that even believable? And even if it's
How many crocodiles?
I'm sorry?
How many crocodiles? Is it a 4 crocodile story or an 8 crocodile story?
No, they just said crocodiles. What I'm thinking is, even if it was true, if they were, which doesn't make any sense, how in the hell were they going to get back at night when the meeting's over? And do you take your why? To me, that's
they have to walk over the crocodiles, you see, and it might take 6 crocodiles to get across the Amazon.
Have you heard any stories, Pixie?
Oh yeah. I've got a lifetime full of them. The most recent one that was funny, because I think most of our listeners know the Smurf story, which I was told in West Virginia in the 70s, and I didn't believe it then, and I don't believe it now. And the lady was very well educated, but she was a born-in witness, and I was staying at her house, and she says, the Smurf walked down the aisle of the Kingdom Hall and turned around and stormed out. And I said, you can't possibly believe that a Smurf would do that. First of all, they're a cartoon character. But recently, we had some repairs on our Kingdom Hall, and this sister from the islands, she believes there's a ghost next to the wall. And so I went over there and I said, yeah, there's a draft here. And I think what it is, it's where the draft comes up not directly on the heating unit and air conditioning unit, but a little ways away from it, because, air has waves like sound has waves. Well, the whole congregation won't sit in that row because they think there's a spirit there.
Pixie, do you think it could be because just a draft?
It's from the draft, but they don't know enough science to know. Because right now, where I'm sitting in my kitchen, I've got heat, but I'm not right over the unit. So air, it's the waves of science in broadcasting, but also in the physics of heat and air and weather. But they're so ignorant that it's easy to bamboozle them with a superstition.
I just like the legends of, we've heard so many stories of sisters saying that they were attacked by a demon in their bed. We've heard the stories of, I remember in the 60s, there was a sister going door to door by herself trying to do her return visit. And she knocked on the door, and he was the guy who opened the door was a notorious rapist. And he attacked the lady that came later, some Avon lady or somebody. And the police caught him and asked him how come he didn't attack the first lady. And he said, do you think I'm crazy? She had 2 big, strong men behind her. And the sister
the 12-foot angel story, yeah.
But we've heard those stories many times. And, one about... Go ahead.
There was a young black brother that had a new podcast last week. I didn't write it down because I wasn't anticipating your topic. But I had to chuckle to myself because he expressed what he thought Bethel was going to be like until he went there, served there, and left. And he said something like, well, we thought they floated down the hallway at Bethel. And I had to chuckle because when I was growing up, we thought that was like the holiest of places, and we didn't picture it as a printing factory and all like that. So, in our minds, we had it as some other kind of place instead of, this rundown factory in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there was demonic activity in Brooklyn. I would not be surprised. There has to be more than 1 or 2 reasons why the poor brothers drink so much.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think if I have any others. Well, I could write a book, I guess. I really suffered because I had neurological issues and my mother had migraine headaches. And again, the ignorance of the so-called leadership who'd never taken high school biology is just sad and pathetic. And of course, people die of the blood doctrine, and that's not based in science either. And it'd be funny if it wasn't so serious. So I'm trying to think of funny ones for you.
Well, I'm just looking for any story you may have heard that was of unexplained phenomena or an urban legend.
Well, I think the one with the ghost next to the aisle of the chairs there, that's really the air conditioning vent. That would, because it's like everybody was convinced of it, and I just sat there and I'm like, that's just the air vent.
Yeah. Well, some people are more sensitive to entities. I mean, it's not.
Well, it wasn't the entity. It was the air vent. If it had been an entity, I would have known. It's just the way they configured the room.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of very uneducated, superstitious people. And I mean, I don't even think any of them know where their pancreas is. It's basic. They didn't take high school biology. Not only university education, but I mean, they don't know stuff. And then they put leaders that don't know stuff, and then the other people are, at the mercy of these leaders that aren't educated. It's just sad.
Well,
but yeah, they got demons under every bed. They got all kinds of demon stories, and maybe the person had a seizure, but they'll say it was demons. Maybe the person had bad Chinese food. They'll say it was demons. Maybe the child has ADHD. They'll say it was demons.
That's true.
So sad. So sad. And then they'll try to sell you a bunch of. Now, I'm a believer in keeping yourself well. I don't want to say that I'm not. I take vitamin C every day and look and see if it's got something behind it, and if it does, I'll do it. But they've got all kinds of folk remedies and multi-level marketing clubs, and put lavender oil on everything, which I don't like lavender oil. I like the color lavender, but I don't like lavender smells.
So are you
funny
that there's no demon activity? Anybody who said that they have this experience, it's just explained away by biology and science?
Oh no, I'm not saying there isn't. I'm not saying that there aren't otherworldly phenomena. I think in some cases there are, but look at the simple explanation first, and sometimes the simple explanation is precisely what it is, and then beyond that, there certainly there's the unexplained. I'm not saying there isn't. I'm not saying there isn't a spirit realm. But I'm saying that in most cases, the witnesses will go to the more speculative conclusion first, rather than look at the nuts and bolts of, well, yeah, that's just the heating vent.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? They'll jump to the demon explanation.
Thank you. Yes, Dixie. What were you saying, Rick? I'm sorry, was Rick trying to comment?
No, it wasn't Anne Marie. It was just a sound clip that went off by mistake. But, I'm thinking, there's so many on the subject of tall tales. And we've all heard it when we were in the Kingdom Hall. Every once in a while, you'd hear someone say something that was quite over the top. I don't know if they were completely lying, but I'm sure they were puffing or exaggerating. But one I can remember is it was in the middle of winter, and we had an assembly up here in Massachusetts, and it was snowy and cold. And the woman who had a daughter, the sister who had a daughter, she wanted to have her baptized, and the biggest problem was you couldn't find a bathing suit. Finding a bathing suit, I guess in the middle of winter, could be rather difficult. So anyways, the sister prayed about it. She prayed to Jehovah that, the daughter could find a bathing suit to get baptized. And she told us in the service meeting one night. And I mean, it really sounded like, whoa, there's a little embellishment going on here. But she says we looked all over. We couldn't find a bathing suit for poor Dottie. And she wanted to get baptized. And I wanted her to get baptized. And we prayed to Jehovah about it. And lo and behold, we went into a store and there was a bathing suit that fit our little Dottie. I mean, you know, it's some of these tall tales, and I'm sure that some of it was true, but a lot of the witnesses would embellish it. I mean, they'd make it bigger than life, especially at a convention or an assembly. They were told to do that. They just couldn't go in and give a normal story. They had to build this thing up so big that, they had people on the edge of their seat. So there's a lot of tall tales out there, Anne-Marie.
I wonder if anybody remembers one of the more famous tall tale of the Smurf that went running, that jumped out of the little boy's hand in the middle of a meeting. And the Smurf jumped out of the boy's hand and went running down the aisle of the Kingdom Hall toward the door because the brother on the stage at the podium was saying Jehovah too much. And he ran screaming, supposedly, out of the hall. And everybody saw it. And that was what I would call an urban legend, a tall tale, because that went everywhere, that story. Anybody remember that one?
Well, that's definitely that's got some icing on it that my Smurf version didn't have. That's a better one. Here's one. My parents both looked young for their years. They both lived a long time. And when both of them were 80 and almost 90, they looked, maybe 60. And so the brothers at the congregation says, "Oh, well, those are some of those forever people." And of course, we all have a personal last day, and I miss them. But I had a friend that I took with me to the Kingdom Hall, and he was an entertainer. And he had beautiful suits, and he's very tall. And he had a white goatee, and he was up in years, too. And he said he enjoyed, traveling with me and taking me there with my parents, and he would help me to take them. And somebody came up to him and said, "Are you Brother Van Amberg?" Now, Rick Farron might know who Brother Van Amberg was.
Yes, I do.
That was a long time ago. So to ask somebody in the 21st century, "Are you Brother Van Amberg?" I mean, to me, that was hilarious.
I heard of one group of brothers and sisters that were out in the ministry, and this went around a lot. And there was this brother that was an elder, and everybody, quote unquote, trusted him and thought he was an exemplary brother. And the story goes that while they were out in the ministry, walking from door to door as a group, all of a sudden a bolt of lightning came out of the sky and hit this brother that everybody liked and trusted. And I don't know if it killed him, or I think it killed him. And then they said they all later found out that he was evil, and Jehovah basically killed him right in front of everybody because God saw what he really was. And that was the story that went around like crazy. Everybody heard
That's
that
quite
one.
a story.
Mm-hmm. It's just really crazy stories. And I was sitting in the Kingdom Hall with a lady that studied with me, and we were on one side of a large Kingdom Hall. And for a while, my mother was being talked about like she was demonized, which she wasn't. And she didn't get to meetings very often, but she was at this meeting on the other side of the hall. And the sister that was studying with me commented, she said, "Can you feel the difference? Jehovah's Spirit is not on the other side of the kingdom because your mother's there and she's demonized." It's just stupid stuff like that.
That's terrible.
It
That's
was
abusive.
terrible.
Hi, Anne-Marie.
Very abusive.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, sister. Who's this?
This is Susan. Hi.
Hi, Susan?
Yes, it's me. I've heard many stories of what sisters were saying at the circuit assembly. So, as anyone remembers, what back then they used to have pioneering where it was like 90 hours a month, and it was a sister. They had a sister on that was giving a bunch of experiences. But what used to just really make me sad because I couldn't do it, pioneering with 2 kids. It was a sister that had 6 kids, an unbelieving husband. She had no car. It was just unbelievable. And those stories would go around, and it would just make you feel disgusted with yourself that you couldn't pioneer because they were overcoming so many obstacles to their pioneering. But they did it every month.
Yeah, it's really sad. I remember being at a district convention, and I think I just wanted to get out of the whole thing. It was in 1979 at the district convention, and I was very, very depressed, and I had missed most of the convention, and my brother drove down from San Francisco to try to encourage me and took me to the convention, and the kids were depressed. I was depressed.
You probably weren't encouraged either.
Well, I'm not sure what happened to Anne Marie. Maybe her phone is giving some trouble. We'll see what happens. Let me just check and see what's going on here. But Anne Marie kind of dipped off the radar screen, but we'll get it back on. But Susan's on with us. And Susan, we've all heard these tales. I'm sure there's a lot listening into the program today. Come on, folks. Would love to hear from you. Go ahead and speak up. You must have an urban legend that you heard in the Jehovah's Witness religion. You must have some type of a tall tale that you heard. You must even have some unexplained phenomena that takes place in the organization. Oh, there's a lot of things. In fact, I'll just give another story that I have. I got a bunch of them. I'm sure you guys got them too. We'd love to hear you. You guys can think of some. But now this, I believe this story was pretty true. Might have been embellished a little bit, but we always hear these tall tales in the Watchtower. But when I was living in Florida, there was a sister in the Kingdom Hall, and she had a twin sister. And they were out in service. They were pioneers. And they knocked on a man's door. And, oh, how nice it is that you Jehovah's Witness girls come to bring me the Watchtower and talk to me about the Bible. And she invited them in. And when she invited them in, I'm sorry, he invited them in. I'm just trying to check. I'm trying to walk and chew gum here at the same time. I just want to make sure that I am on here. Yes, I am on. Just waiting for Anne Marie. But Anne Marie, you back?
No. Yeah, my phone dropped my call.
Okay, I was just in the middle of telling a story about some sisters, pioneers, when I lived in Florida, another tall tale. So the sisters were twins, and they were young. They were about 18, 19, I guess, at the time. So they went to a man's door, and he said, oh, how nice it is. You witnesses came to my door today to bring me the Watchtower magazine. Why don't you come in? We can discuss this. So actually, one of the sisters went back to the car first and had to get something, but the one sister walked in to the man's house. And when she got in there, he locked the door. And this, of course, frightened her. And he said, boy, you sure are a good looking girl. Boy, I would love to have a girlfriend like you. I mean, imagine a man talking to you like that behind a closed door. That frightened her. So anyways, he says, I'm going to, do something nasty to you. And so really upset the Jehovah's Witness woman. She was telling the story at the Kingdom Hall. And so then she couldn't think. She prayed quickly to Jehovah. What am I going to do? I'm in a real bad situation here. So she said to the man, she says, boy, she said, did you see my sister? Isn't she beautiful too? Well, let me go get her and bring her in here because she'd like to have a little episode as well with you. So, I mean, this is kind of an odd story, but I heard it in the Kingdom Hall. So let me go get my sister because she's beautiful. She's my twin, and we can both of us can be with you. So the man says, okay, go get her. And so she opened the door and ran out. What do you think of that story, Anne Marie?
Yeah, I heard that, and that sounds like just a smart move. I don't know if that's a tall tale or phenomena or urban legend, but I believe it. You know, I know those kind of things happen, but it's just amazing that, to me, the amount of demon stories I heard while in the organization, like if you were having any kind of trouble, they were always talking about don't buy clothes or furniture or pictures or dishes from the Goodwill or the Salvation Army because it could have demons. But on the other hand, you couldn't buy a brand new car. Who do you think you are? You know, you had to buy a cheap POS car. Of course, it had to have 4 doors, and nobody ever talked about that car could have demons. Or if you rented a house, you don't know who lived there before you, and they never talked about, oh, the people that could have lived there before might have had demons. You know, it's like it only seemed to fit their scenario when it worked for them, but when it came to practicality, like nobody could afford hardly to buy a house that was never lived in, or buy a brand new car that nobody else owned, or only buy brand new clothes. So it just got to be demons. Everything's demons. I was having trouble with my in my home. You know, my kids were acting out, and the sister that I trusted, an older sister, in fact, she claimed to be the anointed. She came in my house and she saw all of this beautiful Japanese art that I had gotten from my grandmother, and it was all framed in beautiful bamboo, gold and black bamboo frames. And she goes, oh, these are demon eyes. I can feel the demons coming out of it. She made me get rid of all of it, and I didn't feel they were demon eyes at all, but she just decided this is all demons, maybe get rid of all of my grandmother's things. And another time my mom told me a story, because she used to witness to her mother and father who didn't want anything to do with the Watchtower organization, but she was always talking to my grandparents about demons this and demons that. And my grandmother had confided to my mom that there was this particular lady in the neighborhood who had seemed to take a real liking to my grandfather, and she was always making excuses to come over and talk, and it made my grandmother nervous. And then she said she gave my grandfather a scarf, and she didn't like that she had done that. And then they started having problems, and my grandmother was confiding to my mom, we've been having weird things happen. And my mom said, that lady is probably the source of your trouble. You better take that scarf that, excuse me, she gave to my father, and you better put it in a tin pail and put it in the driveway and pour gasoline on it and burn it. And so my mom told me that my grandmother told her that they did what she had advised. They put the scarf that the woman had given my grandfather in a tin pail in the middle of the driveway where it would be safe, pour gasoline on it, lighter fluid or whatever, and they lit it on fire. And my grandmother told my mom at first it wouldn't burn, so they added more fuel. And my grandmother told my mom, all of a sudden this big ball of fire went flying straight to my grandfather. And this came right from my mom's mouth to me, and from my grandmother telling my mom what happened. Now, I can't believe that my grandmother was lying, because it scared her to death. So I do believe these things do happen. Not everything that is a paranormal experience can be explained away by saying, oh, they're just not educated, or, oh, they don't know science. You know, these things happen. So what I think, if it hasn't happened to you, then it's easier to judge that, oh, they just jumped to that conclusion, or, oh, they just aren't educated. You know, I think there's way more to it, because I've heard too much and I have experienced personally too much. And my mom, she was into witchcraft before she started studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses. And when she became convinced that, you know, this was Jehovah's true religion, the only true religion, Jehovah's organization, this is the truth. And she said the demons started attacking her because she didn't want to do witchcraft anymore. And she said at one point she went to step into the hallway to walk down the hallway, and she stepped on an invisible foot. And she said, I knew it was the demons, and I called out to Jehovah, and I told him to get out in the name of Jehovah. I'm not saying she was lying. I don't believe my mother lied, but I do know that there are too many stories that I have heard in my life, and I can't just dismiss them all. I cannot. Anybody have a thought, an opinion, a story, an experience, something they heard? Star 6. Alrighty then. How about any tall tales? I mean, I don't know. I know I've heard tall tales, but the urban legends get me the most because you never know what really started it and what got embellished into the story until it became what you call it an urban legend. It's just really crazy. But personally, I believe in my mind, since the Watchtower is definitely not God's organization, obviously doesn't have God's Holy Spirit, you can just tell by the evidence. So it doesn't surprise me that demon experiences would have been happening a lot in this organization or with particular Jehovah's Witnesses. Go ahead. Anybody want to speak?
Hi, Anne Marie. This is
Hi.
Joe. How are you?
Oh, Joe. Hello. How are you, Joe?
I'm good. It's so nice to hear you. This is not a tall tale or urban legend. This is more under the category of almost demonic, animalistic, hurtful kind of direction that you would never expect, but yet it came from the platform. And it was a CO, and he's up there spouting, and this is a time when they're trying to urge and encourage young ones to get baptized.
Yeah.
And especially to encourage parents to get them to get baptized, even if they weren't inclined. And he said, do everything that you can, even if you have to sit on them. And I thought, what's he talking about? What do you mean to sit on them? And it's like, drastic, extreme measures. In other words, you weren't supposed to be sensitive to their will and their desires. You're supposed to force them, basically. Sit on. And because if you think about this idea of sitting, if you were to sit on someone, or imagine if they were to sit on you, just imagine that effect. If they were to sit on your chest or on your back if you were lying down, you would probably suffocate. If they stayed, you would literally suffocate. And even if you didn't, you would be forced to fight for your life. And unfortunately, this kind of, I'm sorry to say that had such a powerful negative influence, because I thought, well, it must mean their lives. And I'm sorry to say that was a very influential kind of a bad influence on us. There's no way to treat people or children. No way.
Okay. Have you had any experiences yourself?
I'm sorry?
Have you, Joe, had any experiences yourself?
Well, yeah, I had 4 children, and we had 4 children, and we sat on them, and they baptized early. And, well, now that we realize that there were some other situations in the congregation that were abusive toward children, like sexual abuse, as well as whatever other abuse, the whole effect of it all is a whole breakdown in family relations. It broke us up. It separated us out from the organization when we realized that they were hiding pedophiles. And then the next step, of course, is their policy of shunning those that leave the organization. So right from the very beginning, it was just a very destructive kind of an influence. It was no tall tale. It was more of a destructive tale, a destructive directive, and unfortunately, it works.
Yeah, it does. And like I said, I'm not surprised personally to have heard of so many, you could almost feel evil and demonic experiences in the Watchtower, especially when I got to the point when I really, really thought about the memorial that the Watchtower says is the most important night of the year, when I realized, wait a minute, this is a satanic ritual. Humans are kind of involved, and they don't attack everybody, but the influence, I mean, like you said, the abuse of children, the violence toward wives, abused wives, pedophiles getting away with harming children, and that's an evil, twisted thing to do. That doesn't come from God, that comes to me from an evil influence. So I think this is really real. But the stories that a lot of people would like, oh, that can't be true, or oh my God, I heard this, I think that's kind of pushing the envelope, because we can accept some things like, oh wow, that guy's really screwed up. But when it's like paranormal or a tall tale or urban legend, they've been floating around for a very, very long time. So I'm very sorry. Again, I know I've told you this before. I am so sorry for what you and Fran have gone through when you came to realize what was going on with the child sexual abuse and the protection of pedophiles that the Watchtower is routinely doing. And for finding that out and asking about it, you got shunned, you got labeled, wicked apostate, and your children were turned against you. And that is just the most evil thing. It's terrible. And I'm so sorry for that.
Well, I appreciate that, but we just have to recognize that the techniques that they use are they're very intelligent, but unfortunately wicked and inhumane techniques against humans. They know humans, they know how to control humans, and we are it's such a responsibility now on our part to be wise to that. We needed to be wise to it previously. We weren't, and now we have every obligation to do our part to learn more about ourselves, so that we don't fall prey to that again, and to help each other with that.
Oh, no doubt, absolutely. Good point, Joe. Good point.
Yeah.
Basically, we just want to call. We wanted to focus on any urban legend you may have heard of or experienced, any paranormal experience, or any tall tale you've heard. Just the subject. We know Watchtower is evil. There's just no other way around it, because all the evidence says this cannot be God's anything. Even one scripture in the Watchtower, 2 Corinthians 3:17, says very clearly, now Jehovah is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of Jehovah is, there is freedom. So the evidence of Jehovah's Spirit being with a religion or an organization would be that there is freedom within that organization or religion. And we know even teamies are completely dedicated to serving the Watchtower. They know that there literally really is no freedom. You're not free to think for yourself. You're not free to choose your own job or where you live or who you associate with or who you marry or how you dress or how you talk, how you spend your time. There's no freedom. You're not free to disagree. You're not free to ask questions. And, you could be so easily, like you did, you asked an innocent question of your friend who brought you into the organization. Say, hey, we heard that this is going on. Is this true? You could test anything. Next thing you know, going around behind your back telling your kids, you better watch out for your parents, they're turning apostate. That is not freedom. And that scripture says that where God's Spirit is, there is freedom. So obviously, God's Spirit is not with this organization. They have done more evil than what we could say, quote unquote, good. Oh, I'm so glad I was in the organization. They taught me how to do this, and I didn't smoke or do drugs, and I was serving God, and I raised my children according to Bible principles. Well, that's all well and fine, but you don't have to be in a twisted organization to do that. Just because you do things doesn't negate all of the evil. Right, Joe?
Well, I totally agree with you. And honestly, I think that was probably the biggest distorted and untrue urban legend that God's Spirit was with Jehovah's Witnesses. That to me was the most dishonest of urban legends.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a really bad, dishonest organization, because the only freedom you have, and this is Donald Brown, by the way. I've never been a witness, but all my studying that I've done with them back in the early 90s, I got out of it pretty quick. But yeah, there's no freedom in there, because the only freedom you have with that religion is to worship the governing body. That's basically what it is. That's the whole gist of the religion. It is worshiping those men at the top. That is, matter of fact, they are the religion itself. They are the religion.
Oh, yeah. What's your name, dear?
Oh, Donald Brown.
Just a minute. What was your name who was just speaking, please?
Donald Brown.
Don?
Yes, Donald Brown.
Don Brown. Okay, I just want to make sure I acknowledge everybody who calls in. And I really appreciate your point, because that's just straight up nuts and bolts, the truth of the matter. Every time they talk about serve Jehovah, be faithful to Jehovah, obey Jehovah, don't question the governing body, because if you do, you're questioning Jehovah. Obey without question, absolute loyalty. It's not Jehovah. Every time they say Jehovah, they really mean them. And it's insane to equate Jehovah with serving the governing body. They can't disconnect. It's so, talk about mind control. Was there something, did you add anything, Mr. Don Brown, Brother Don Brown?
What was that again?
Was there anything that you would like to add to your comment?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, like I said, it's just pure evil what they do, because with the shunning practices that they do, and not only that, the shunning, I know the child abuse thing is a big, big topic, but the shunning thing is also equally as big, because people died from that. I mean, from the videos I've watched over the years, people talk about family members who committed suicide just because they were disfellowshipped. That's terrible. I mean, it's beyond terrible. That's proof that religion does not have God in it. I mean, God wouldn't do that to people, I don't think.
No. And the way a lot of the witnesses react to a poor person who commits suicide, and the suicides are so many that a lot of people don't want to talk about just how many are so devastated and so broken and so lost and depressed that they do commit suicide. If I hear a comment, it's usually, well, they did it to themselves. Well, that's what they get for leaving Jehovah. Is that what Jesus would say?
No, Jesus never said that. But yeah, the thing about leaving Jehovah, there again, when you leave the organization, they say you left God, but that's because they claim exclusivity to God. They have God in their little box. And so if you're not in that organization, no matter who you are or where you're at, you don't serve God. And if that's the case, according to them, you're going to be destroyed at Armageddon. And that's what they tell their members that stuff so that they don't leave. And when they tell them that, they're stuck in that trap, like he said. They're just in this trap of, it's a vicious circle that just keeps going round and round and round. Well, I can't do this because Jehovah's watching, or I can't date a worldly person because they're not into truth, and blah blah blah, and I can't go here and I can't go there, and I can't watch this, can't watch that, can't read this, can't read that. Oh, I can't go on the internet, can't do this. It's all a bunch of can't. There's nothing that says the only thing you can do is just go to meetings. Go out and door to door, because they don't do that much anymore, but go out and field service, whatever that might cover, and there again, worship the governing body.
That's what it comes down to. They don't say it, but they say it without actually saying it. That's
Hello, Anne-Marie.
Yes, who's this?
This is Kurt. Hello.
Oh, hi, Kurt. Haven't heard you in a while. Thank you, Don Brown. What's going
you're
on?
welcome.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. There is things about the Watchtower, a list of things that I don't approve of. Now, they're teaching on demonology. I think it's just about right. For Christians of all types, I believe, the scriptures are pretty clear about Satan as a person and the demons, what they're capable of. To stay on the guard, stay on your guard. I have not had any personal experiences, but I've got one of my sons. He's 43 now. He was practicing Buddhism for a long time. Now he's a confirmed Catholic, but he's had at least a half a dozen experiences. I don't think they were embellished at all. Well, I think we're contact with demons. And the demons, of course, are not able to just reach out and kill somebody, but they can manifest. I think we all agree. Now, one last thing, for example, in the account where Jesus, one of the accounts where he expelled a wicked spirit, the Pharisees said, you get your power from Satan, from Beelzebub. And he said, no, Satan's kingdom will be divided if that was true. But yeah, there in one other place, I'll just drop it, won't get any further into it. He made it very plain that Satan's ruler of the world and Satan's kingdom versus God's kingdom.
Right.
Been active, without getting into a big theological discussion. But yeah, I do believe that, for example, I haven't had any concrete proof of this, but it's something that you might buy and bring home. I've never experienced it. Could have a, quote, familiar spirit, the King James Version uses that term, attached to it. I don't know why or how, but I believe that's true. So, yeah, with the Watchtower probably overdoes it some. You know, they overdo it some. And you always look for the scientific explanation. But yeah, with all believers, in particular Christians, believers in Christianity, I think are targets for Satan. But anyway, thank you for taking my call, Anne-Marie, and I'll go back to mute. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I really missed you, and I really appreciate your calling in, and I really appreciate your comment.
Miss you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it does seem that Watchtower kind of likes to use the idea of the demons and Satan as somehow a fear tactic. You know, like, well, you got to stay into the Ark of Salvation. You got to stay under the protection of Jehovah and his organization, so if anybody does have demon problems, we got to get closer to Jehovah's organization and pray for Jehovah to protect you. But almost made me want to cling more to Watchtower, like, I must not have Jehovah's spirit because I'm being attacked, So I think there's a lot of people feeling that. Go ahead.
But you, go ahead.
Oh no, I'll listen.
Who's speaking? Go ahead. It's okay.
Oh, this is Donald.
This is who?
Donald again.
Oh, Don. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's weird though? While they're preaching all this stuff about the world's full of Satan and everything, And I do agree that Satan's out there doing all kinds of stuff, but they make everything outside their group bad. Everything, including education. You know, they don't want people going to college. They don't want people getting a career. But yet, at the same time, while they're preaching that, what do they do behind the scenes? Oh, we're being banned by the government, so we're being shut down by the government, so whatever. We got to run to Satan and go get our money. You know, they're all about their money, and they'll go to Satan for that.
Oh, yeah. My favorite was when I heard a member of the governing body on either JW broadcast or on one of their shows said that Satan is coming after us.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
Through legal means, that basically Satan is attacking us through legal means. Like, oh, this is just Satan attacking. And it couldn't possibly be that governments who see what they're doing and are coming after them. So the Watchtower has been protecting pedophiles, hiding pedophiles, while threatening the victims and the parents of the victims if they talk. And it's thing I can't believe that witnesses sooner or later are going to have to face the facts. Oh, those are just apostate lies. Well, have you done any investigation? Have you done any research?
Can I weigh in again, Anne Marie?
Very good.
Hi,
Good.
Anne Marie. Can I just kind of pop in again?
Absolutely, Joe. Thank you, Don. Go ahead, Joe.
I know I said this before, and I know the subject was urban legends. In other words, things that really aren't true. But this is the opposite of that came from that organization. And this was from Rutherford, the second president, as vile a man that anyone would ever want to know. But yet he said something that disclosed the truth about them. And that is that religion is a snare and a racket.
Absolutely.
Everything they did proved both of those things. They just proved it through their activities. And that's a cautionary tale that we didn't know at the time. And here they know that a snare is something where the hungry little animal is looking for food. The trapper knows that it's looking for food. It knows it.
Hey.
And it's going to put it in a situation where it's going to be trapped or killed, just because it's going to do what it's supposed to do, look for something good. And if this isn't a lesson, I don't know what is. But we have to be so on guard against that. It's our obligation as humans to be very on guard for that.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, my brother. Absolutely. We just need to pay attention. It's funny. It's like Rick has brought out so many times, and it's also been brought out by other sources, that when an evil organization is basically manipulating and deceiving and lying to you and just basically teaching you twisted things, the rule of an evil organization is basically that they have to tell you what they're doing to you. They have to tell you how they're doing it and when they're doing it, and they have to just basically tell you. But if you're not paying attention, you think that when they're talking about all this, some other religion, and it's amazing how crafty they are. But if you really have a clear mind and start listening to what they're saying, or go back and just read any old Watchtower and read an article, and you'll see it, the manipulation. They'll tell you, like, do you have an open mind, and who has control of your mind? And it's a study article, and everybody's like, oh, we got to watch out for Satan. We have to watch out for false religion. And it's the Watchtower telling you exactly what they're doing, how they're controlling, how they're fooling you, how they're tricking you, how they're lying to you. and how they're manipulating your mind. Everybody's like, oh, yeah. But in their mind, they're being told in such a way that their brain is thinking they're talking about somebody else.
But, you know, I watched a video a while back. According to them, here's what they said. They never lie, and they never deceive us. That's what they said. Can you believe that? When I heard that, I thought, well, there's lie number one. Y'all just lied.
Absolutely. We never lie. Oh, my
God. Boy, are they gullible.
It's such a shame. We suffered a lot, but at least our eyes and our brain is open.
Can I jump in again, Anne-Marie?
Please go ahead. Thank you, Don. Go ahead, Joe.
You know, we've got this notion as humans that, you know, we're looking for something that's good. And so people continue to look for good. For example, believing that I'm going to find good in this organized religion. I'm going to find good. Well, it bumps right up against the scripture, and I don't know where it is. I don't remember the numbers. But it said that all the time where man has dominated man to his injury. Now, I don't think it's talking about you dominating man. I don't think it's about me and as an individual dominating. I think it's talking about organizations. Dominating man. And so the cautionary tale here, if it's a big organization, it's probably going to seek to dominate you. And if you think otherwise, you've been tricked.
Well said, Joe. Absolutely. Right on the money, true.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why they didn't want us to think for ourselves. They said that the thinking has been done for us. I remember them having that study article. They actually trained us not to trust our own thinking, because if we did, that's independent thinking, basically allowing Satan to manipulate our brain. So, you know, we don't need to worry, because they've already done the thinking for us and they've done the research for us. And we were taught to just blindly accept and absorb and believe whatever Watchtower said. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing, because, you know, I'm hearing on videos I've watched over the years, you know, them saying that, well, you can't trust the news, you can't trust the media, but you can 100% trust the governing body, because, or the faithful and the sweet slave, because Jehovah and Jesus do according to them. But how do they know what Jehovah? I don't think there's anywhere in the Bible that says that God or Jesus puts their trust in anybody that I know of.
Yep. I'm hearing you. Isn't it 146 verse 3 that says, do not put your trust in nobles nor in the son of earthling man, to whom no salvation belongs? Was anybody like Jesus or any of the apostles ever telling us that we could trust imperfect man? Or should we just listen to Jesus and Jehovah God in the Bible? It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, like, I go to, like, for example, I go to church, okay? Yes, I do listen to my pastor, but I don't put I love my pastor, but I don't put my whole human trust in him, thinking that he's going to get me to God, because, yes, he preaches the word, he preaches the Bible, but he's just a human being. He's just like me. He's no different than me. So the only way I can trust what he says is if it comes straight from the Bible and not from some stupid Watchtower magazine or whatever.
There you go.
As long as he's reading the word, I know I can trust the word. So if I can trust the word, then I know he's speaking the truth. But, you know, Joe's Witnesses, they're taught to trust the Watchtower over the Bible. And
exactly. And what's your name again? I just want to be sure. Is this Dawn?
No, this is Donald. Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh.
Oh, I just want to be double sure. You're so right. You brought out such a great point that the Watchtower organization is basically trained their trusting members to trust them and their literature, whatever their literature is teaching at any given time, over and above what the Word of God says. Because
well, not only that, but you remember when you were a witness, how you were taught that. This is what I read a while back that, or I heard too, that you can't read the Bible without the Watchtower. You shouldn't study the Bible by itself. That you have to have their literature to understand the Bible. Which means to me that sounds like the literature trumps the Bible.
Exactly. Remember, there was an article in a Watchtower, I think in 1967, and it was basically saying that God's Word, the Bible, actually is an organization book.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah, that's not true. That's not an organization book.
I know, you're right, but I mean, how presumptuous, how arrogant.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, it's like them calling themselves the faithful and discreet slave. You know, that was only a parable in Matthew. That wasn't a prophecy.
No. They kind of take it to the step and make another step. God's giving a parable about who really is the faithful and discreet slave. He's simply talking about, in my mind, he's talking about a servant who is faithful to the master of the house, who is proven trustworthy to take care of the entire household. That includes everybody in the family, the land, the animals, make sure the bills are paid, there's food there, and whatever. And they that and take it further. So, see, Jehovah established a faithful, discreet slave. And then they go to the, what do they call it? The channel. And I'm always laughing because they always quote Matthew 24, 43 and 45 or whatever, 46. They never, ever go and read verse 48, which says Jesus identifies the faithful slave that the Watchtower claims to be. 48, Jesus says basically, however, if ever that evil slave should begin to say in his heart, my master's delaying, and should get drunk and start to beat his fellow slaves. They never, ever read that part. And when they do, if they ever acknowledge verse 48, where Jesus very clearly identifies that faithful slave turns out to be an evil slave, because now he's like full of himself and he thinks, hey, my master's not back. I have all this control and power, and this is what he ends up being, an evil slave. If the Watchtower ever does acknowledge that verse, they'll say, well, it's possible that there could be an evil slave, but that's not us. No.
Oh, yeah, they'll come up with that, yeah.
Jesus very clearly said, if ever that evil slave. He's not talking about somebody else. He's talking about what they claim to be. So their own Bible, if they would just really read it, it shows so clearly they're claiming to be the faithful and discreet slave, and their definition of like that's their claim to authority from God and Jesus. Well, if they really are, then they have just also taken the rest of the identity that Jesus gave, which says that the faithful slave is, quote unquote, an evil slave. And haven't they proven themselves to be so?
Oh, yeah. It's amazing how they could take one or two scriptures and build an entire doctrine all around those two without going into context. They just take one or two scriptures and they build this whole belief system off of it. And it just amazes me how they do that. I mean, like that faithful and discreet slave thing, because they even say that there was a governing body in the first century, and that's not, no, there wasn't.
I know. You're right.
And I never was a Jehovah's Witness, but, I studied with them back in the early 90s, but I got out of them real quick because even back before the internet was, even in the early 90s, I saw the control they had. And what I saw was they kept telling me that that by associating with people around me, that was going to spoil useful habits. Whatever that little scripture is that they use, bad association spoils useful habits. So they were always pounding that into me, make sure I didn't miss. But then after I learned, when I got on the internet, started doing research, I learned that when they were using that, they were setting you up for disfellowshipping, because if you have friends on the outside, their disfellowshipping thing doesn't work.
Right.
And they want to set you up for that. So when you do go wrong, according to them, they can disfellowship you, and you'll be in your own little JW hell. That's what I call it, little JW hell, where nobody speaks to you, nobody talks to you, nobody writes to you, nobody texts you or emails you, and you have to go to the meetings and sit in the back and watch everybody ignore you to death and pretend that you're dead for what, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 20 years, 30 years, until they finally decide to turn around and forgive you, if they even do that.
Right. And it's really, really sad, because from the very beginning, when witnesses try to basically recruit somebody to join the Watchtower organization from the get-go, they want you to start seeing your friends and your family as being enemies of God, because Satan will use them to try to get you to stop studying. They'll tell you that we're a cult. They'll tell you that, you should stop studying with those people. And that's how you know that Satan's using them to try to keep you away from the truth. They're so manipulative. And they also taught that how you can tell if they have the right heart condition is start trying to share with your family and your friends what you're learning about Jehovah. And if they're not interested, or they try to tell you that you're studying with a cult or whatever, that's how you know they don't have a right heart condition. And you should try to distance yourself, because that's Satan. That's how you can tell. And that actually convinces them to go running to the Watchtower. And like you said, Watchtower wants to get you as much as possible to have your entire life revolve around and within Watchtower rules, mandates, procedures, and requirements, to only dress like them, to conform, to perform, to obey, to be faithful, believe what you're told to believe, and when they change their understanding, then you have to adjust your thinking, and you need to be humble and not question Jehovah's arrangement. It's like they have every little facet covered. And
don't forget, they also say that we're not embarrassed, and there's no need to apologize. Meaning, when they were changing stuff.
I was just listening to that this morning. I know. Oh, we make changes. Aren't we glad that we make adjustments? And this is the way Jehovah works. Wait a minute. I heard Brother Loesch say very clearly the early Christians were inspired. Today we are not inspired, but we champion the truth. But Jehovah and Jesus trust the faithful slave. Do you trust the faithful slave? Wait a minute. You're inspired, but yet you say that Jehovah is guiding the organization. Jehovah is providing through the faithful slave truth at the right time, and the light is getting brighter. And I'm thinking, I know how I grew up and what I was taught, and I remember all the was in the organization and what I was taught. And now I'm hearing that all of that I was taught was the truth is now all garbage, and they're getting rid of all of that literature. Oh, it's now it's apostate literature. How does
that don't make sense?
Does God promote apostate literature?
See, that's where, Anne-Marie, you're thinking very logically. You're thinking scientifically, because you're realizing that what they're handing you doesn't make sense. They're handing you fear and superstition. And when I was a little child, I didn't have words for it. But I knew that it wasn't making sense, because I had honest people in my family, and I was brought up to be honest, and I was brought up to work hard, and I knew my town had those kinds of people. I really feel sad for the people that are homeschooled or live in an area where most of their social is only Watchtower and only Kingdom Hall, because in a way my town and the public library saved me, because I knew there were other good people in the world. I knew these world
there are. There's tons
were all wicked. Good for you, Pixie. Yeah, absolutely. They want to keep you as isolated as possible. It's almost like Plato's cave, you know, the guys that were chained up in the cave. It's just like that. And if you ever break
exactly like Plato's cave,
you ever break out of that cave and find out it's not what we were taught, and you try to tell people back in the cave, your family and everybody, they'll kill you. Metaphorically, whatever. It's scary, and it's really, really scary when you're able to really see. Anybody want to comment?
There's a funny saying about don't teach a pig to sing. It wastes your time and annoys the pig.
No doubt. No doubt.
So you can't convince people if they don't want to be convinced. Shakespeare said, convince a man against his will. He's of the same opinion still.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I like that quote. And it's true. It's got a lot of wisdom. I love his quote.
Can I say something?
Of course. Who's this, dear?
Jane from Australia.
Hi, June.
Yes.
Hi, June.
First time caller. And I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the show and listening to all the stories, because I faded out, and but all the witnesses I know still think I'm there. But it's really like listening to the stories. It's really like mental therapy, because it's validating all the observations I've been observing, but I can't talk to anybody. So I really, it's really validating what I've been observing, but I know if I say something, it will be, I can't say it. So it's good to find this platform. Thank you.
Oh, June, thank you so much. Have you called in before? I don't recognize you.
No, first time.
Well, welcome to the Six Screens family. I hope you call in again. And if you have any further thoughts, I really appreciate your comment, because, you know, it really is, this is why I love Six Screens, this platform that Rick Barron so faithfully provides, is we can come here and we can be safe and we can say what we honestly think and express what we feel, what we believe, what we went through, and everybody gets it. Everybody understands what you're saying. And like you said, it's kind of like therapy, because when you can speak freely and be understood and supported, it does help us feel better, because Watchtower made it feel if we didn't think a certain way or believe a certain way, if we disagreed or whatever, somehow we were the ones that were wrong. We were the problem. We were bad. We had something wrong with us. Were you in the organization, June?
Yes.
Oh, are you able to be out now, or are you still in?
I'm still in, but fading, like inactive, sort of, yeah.
That has to be hard. That's a very hard position to be in.
But I'm out mentally and everything, because I've done a lot of research, and I'm out. I'm personally, me, I know I'm out, but I never attend any meetings.
So June, are you still in, June, because you have family in there? Is that what's holding you physically in there? Is that what it is, or what's keeping you there?
No, I'm not there. It's just that I never wrote the letter.
Oh, okay.
To dissociate.
So I know some people can be mentally out but physically in because their family is still there. And even though they claim they say this, but it doesn't happen. But they say you're allowed to switch religions, or whatever. But that's not true, because once you leave if you have family in there, your whole family is going to abandon you totally, and that's how they keep you in.
Most of my family have left, but still I've not written the. Yeah, they've gone. So we've not written any letters. We've just
you just left. Yeah.
Yeah. But
by the way,
still I have friends.
Yeah, my name is Donald June. I'm in Beaumont, Texas. That's where I'm located.
Well, June, I'm so happy you called in, and I don't want you to feel that you don't, you're not able to call in anytime or later in the show. You're always welcome, as all of our Six Streams family callers are always welcome to share whatever's on your mind. And you will always have validation and support, and you will always be understood. Anything, because I know it in your position, it is not easy. Especially like you said, when you finally brave enough and do the research, it still breaks my heart. I started doing research, maybe in 2001, and I did nothing but research for 4 years, almost all day and into the night, and I still can't believe the stuff that I'm still uncovering, and it's just it's mind blowing. It really, really is. That something that could portray itself as so clean and so holy and so spiritual and so loving and so godly. It's amazing. Doesn't Corinthians say that no wonder doesn't Satan's messengers or ministers turn themselves into angels of light? They make themselves look so good. They're so convincing. I mean, look at how smoothly Satan talked to Eve. Is it really so that God has said that you must not eat of the tree? I mean, it just seems so reasonable. You have no even reason to feel like you have to be on guard. They're just so smooth. They suck you in. And then you can't get out. Then you lose your family and your mind. Anybody have anything to add or comment? This is your show.
I have something to share with y'all.
What's that, love?
And there's this urban legend about John Denver and how they assumed that he didn't like them and would tell them to leave, but I never bought it, and I don't buy it, and I think he was decent and that he truly loved his neighbor and was just doing what he did, that urban legend, out of respect.
Well, if I might comment on that, I personally believe it absolutely did happen. In 1977, I was visiting a sister in San Francisco, and we were talking about music and what people we liked, and I loved John Denver. And she said, well, I love John Denver too, but I don't like him anymore. And I said, why? And she said, well, there was a concert. She loved John Denver, and she and a bunch of other sisters had bought tickets to go to John Denver's concert. And this was either in 17. And she told me that they went to the concert. They were all excited. And John Denver comes walking on the stage, and they were just so excited because they all loved John Denver. And he was introducing the show, and he said, before I start getting into my set, I just want to say, if there are any Jehovah's Witnesses in the audience, please leave, because I hate Jehovah's Witnesses. And I said, he said that? And she said, yes. And I said, well, did you guys leave? She goes, no, I paid for my ticket. I don't care what he says. I'm going to stay there. I paid for my ticket. But I believe that he did say that because this sister was very upset, and so were all the other sisters who heard it straight from him. And I thought about it, and I used to love John Denver and listen to his songs, and he was a very gentle, loving, spiritual man. And the only thing I could think of is this is just what I surmise. I think that he may have fallen in love with maybe a Jehovah's Witness girl who really liked him, and he thought maybe they could make it work. But because we all know how the religion is, you either join the Watchtower and become one of them, or you're a wicked person. And whatever it is, the hurt must have been so bad, and he was so angry, and that's why he said what he said. This is not an urban legend. I've heard other people say it's an urban legend, but because I personally knew of a sister who actually went to that concert, and she was telling me what he said, and she was so irate, like, how dare he? Who does he think he is? And that was like I said, in 1977, she told me this, and I don't know if the actual concert was in 77 or 76, but this happened. It is not an urban legend. A lot of people believe it is, but it's not. Anybody have any? Go ahead.
Wouldn't there have been a recording of that somewhere, of that concert, where they could hear that?
Well, this was not necessarily. This was a concert back in, like I said, the mid-70s, 76, 77. And maybe somebody might have recorded his songs, but nobody's going to be recording the introduction. But if they did, no. You can say a lot of things. I've been to concerts and no. So, like I said, this sister was very upset. Now, if this was an urban legend, this is not something made up. You don't make up and put on an act of being that irate, because she felt betrayed, because she and both sisters loved John Denver. I personally love John Denver. His music was very, very popular. It was very spiritual.
Very smooth.
It was very spiritual. He's full of love. Rocky Mountain High and, West Virginia, Take Me Home, really soul-stirring music. And these sisters were very upset, and they all turned against him because of what he said.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have said that publicly unless something had happened. It had to have been pretty bad. And I remember he was talking on a talk show, and somebody said, "We heard that you said this, and why did you say it?" And I forgot what he said, but he gave a very succinct explanation of basically he had his reasons. And knowing Watchtower as we do, we can imagine what
his reasons were, yeah.
I mean, how do we know that maybe one of his female relatives, maybe a niece and maybe his sister or brother, somebody who had a child, maybe they were getting into the organization, and maybe one of his little children that he was related to, maybe they got sexually abused, and we all know how the Watchtower covers it all up. Whatever it was enough to make you feel like, I hate Jehovah's Witnesses, because he knew. And we know the ugly too. So again, this is not an urban legend.
Anne Marie?
Yes, ma'am. Who's this?
Hi, honey. It's Constance. Hi, honey. How you doing?
You? I've called you. I've texted you. I just don't want you to think I forgot you. My sister, the best researcher in life.
Well, I have two phone numbers, honey. And the one you call, I really don't use that phone. So I'll have to give you the other one another time. And I didn't get your message until like 2 days ago. So I apologize, honey, for that.
I just want you to think I forgot you, my sister. Go ahead. What's on your mind, my dear?
Well, I grew up just like you, Anne Marie. I mean, we're real close in age. John Denver was so popular in the day. And anyway, just a couple of things I wanted to say. His first wife's name was Annie, and she was a JW. So...
Okay. Yeah, I know you know your stuff.
Well, I love music, honey, and different, musicians I love. It's sort of fun to sort of follow them. And then the other part of the story I was going to say is one of my favorite places in California is the Monterey Peninsula, Monterey, Carmel, that whole area. And I was with a friend, and we were visiting the area, and we're just walking along the shore.
And I had heard that John Denver had gone down, somewhere in the Monterey area, which could have been Carmel, it could have been Pacific Grove, it could have been anywhere, it could have been, maybe Big Sur. And we're walking along, and there was a plaque there, and it said John Denver. Basically, it was in honor of him, and it's exactly where his plane went down, and it was just not very far from where the Monterey Aquarium is. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is where it was. But back in the day, he was flying the plane, and I don't know if that was an accident or if it was suicidal, or I don't know, but it was very sad. He was so popular and loved by so many people. But I do remember, Anne Marie, when a sister had told me just what you said, and I was shocked that John Denver would say something like that. But I never knew he had been married to a witness, and her name was Annie.
I didn't either. I thought it had to do with something very personal, where the fact I just assumed, and thank you for validating that. I always tell people when I talk about you, I've never met anybody who could dig up research like you can. So his wife that was a Jehovah's Witness, and I bet that's what caused him that pain. Something ugly went on because of Watch.
And she was very pretty. I remember seeing an interview. She looked, just like a typical witness. She was very pretty. She had dark hair, like shoulder length, and it's just sort of sad. Who knows? I mean, he never was a witness. My guess, it's just a guess, and that's all it is that, she, got married to him and then became a witness, would be my guess. Because why would she have married him if they were uneven, even if he was John Denver, she would have been marked. So it's just my guess. But I think what happened is they got married, and then the witnesses came around and she became a witness. But yeah, that's the story behind that one, honey. So thank you, sweetheart.
A lot of sense. Well, like I said before, knowing how Watchtower is, how controlling they are, if she became Jehovah's Witness, and she would have been pressured to work on him, and if he's really a good man and he has the right heart condition, he'll become one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You can imagine the pressure. And of course, he probably thought for what he was, because he was a deeply spiritual man. The way he loved the way he sang about life and love, I can see it. And it might have just broken up the marriage, or she might have pulled away from him. And this was a woman he loved. That makes so much sense. See, we might not know all the details, but then you come on, Constance, and you make it more clear. Because I can't tell you how many people have argued with me, oh, it's just an urban legend that never happened. No, I know it did.
No, it happened. Her name was Annie. Annie was her name. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Didn't he think about her? Something, Annie?
He might have. But boy, he had some beautiful songs, Rocky Mountain High, and in the 70s, he was just so popular. You turned on the radio, he was always, oh yeah, he was very, very popular. And it was sad how he ended up dying, to be there right on the shore, walking along the shore, and there was a plaque in honor of him. It's like, oh my gosh, this is exactly where his plane went down, So, yeah, it was what it was, honey. It really was. Sometimes these, these celebrities, you think their life is so glamorous, and they're not. They're just human like everybody else, and they have issues and family trials and tribulations, and it is. Sometimes it seems so glamorous, but a lot of times behind the scenes, it's not. It really isn't. So, but I sure loved his music. That's for sure.
Oh, no doubt. But it makes me really sad knowing he was such a spiritual man. I can only surmise that he loved his wife dearly. And then for her to turn, how the Watchtower is. If she became a witness after he married her, then of course to destroy their natural intimacy. She's going to start seeing him the way they want her to see him, as, oh, you don't want to come join the only true religion. Jehovah's going to destroy everything. You can imagine what it did to their life.
Oh, their
relationship. And it just, at some point, that might have on him.
Yeah, well, she probably was like most of us. She went gung ho once she got baptized, and was preaching like crazy. And a lot of times when people are celebrities, it's it's not easy to be faithful when you're traveling around and you're staying in hotels and you're going from city to city and state to state, and you're not at home, and that's really, really challenging. It really is. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm just saying a lot of times that is very difficult. So it pulls the marriage apart. But just the witnesses themselves trying to indoctrinate the unbeliever is like, it's just over the top. And couples, they separate. They what's the word I'm trying to say? They grow apart. Like, stop preaching to me. I don't. I respect your own beliefs, but I don't want it. For myself.
Well, the stress that is caused when one is a witness and they're being pushed by everybody in the Kingdom Hall and the elders, and and then they cause such divisions and such judgment, and almost you can only imagine what it did to their marriage, because we do know how Watchtower operates, and it makes the most sense that would be behind John Denver saying that. Please leave the audience of Jehovah's Witnesses, because I hate Jehovah's Witnesses. He told me exactly what he said, and I just said that, and I'm thinking, John Denver's not going to say, I hate Jehovah's Witnesses unless there's a reason. And I was a dedicated witness at the time.
Right.
But obviously, no, he is not going to say that unless there's a story there. And knowing how they operate, they only want you to be with other dedicated cult members, because that's what it is.
Right. Now, when these two sisters in your that were friends of yours, Anne Marie, did they see him in the San Francisco Bay Area?
I do believe so. Yes, it was. I was in San Francisco, and I think it was in the city or very close to the city, because they could get there easily, because they all lived in the San Francisco.
Yeah. Oh, he was so popular. Everybody loved John Denver. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought there might have been something about not standing up, for the flag. For some reason that it seems to, remember that in my memory, that I think there was an issue that he was very, very patriotic, and because he was of German descent, which is interesting. Denver was not his real name. I think it was something like Dusseldorf or some German name. And so they gave him the name Denver. But anyway, I think it was something about not saluting the flag, and he was so patriotic and so, angry about that. And I think that's why he said that, because nowadays, you wouldn't necessarily find, well, maybe you would, but back then, you wouldn't find any musicians would say something like that, because their career would be on the line. People would just keep their opinions to themselves. But he was just very bold.
He had been very emotional for him to say what he said, because he was an honest man. He spoke from his heart. He was a spiritual man. And it had to be pretty powerful what was behind him saying that.
Yes, for sure.
We're kind of over time. Let me check with Rick. Rick, how are we doing?
Not too bad. You got a lot of people still calling in, Anne Marie. So why don't you go another 10 minutes or so? We'll keep it alive.
Okay, I just wanted to check with you. Thank you so much. Constance, is there anything you would like to add? I always enjoy your comments, and you always bring out good stuff.
No, honey, not especially. I'm just really enjoying your show. I always love your show. Poor Rich is under the weather tonight. He's been sick for a few weeks, and tonight he's just really, really in bad shape. So we're not going to do our show tonight, and I hope Rick got that message. He called, about 2:30. But I'm really loving your show, honey, and we always do. So thank you, sweetheart.
And I love your guys' show. You guys are so cute together. You guys do a great job. Very much. And I saw your the things that you would share with me, all your research. I learned so much, like especially during the COVID. But anyway, I want to ask if anybody is waiting to speak.
Yeah.
Feel free.
Anne Marie?
Yes. Thank you, Constance.
This is Carol Paradise.
Carol Paradise?
Carol. Yes, I was Carrie in the suite, but I'm Carol Paradise.
Okay. How are you,
Okay.
Carol?
So I'm fine. I wanted to say that I remember way back when John Denver had his little hissy fit, and that was because, from what I understood, is that when he was booking his concert, he wanted a certain date, and the witnesses were having their convention there, and they wouldn't give up their convention for him, and he really got mad. So that's when he said what he said, because he had to postpone his date to another date. Now, I don't know if you ever heard that, but that's what I heard. But we're going way back. Yeah. So he was really angry because he wanted that date, but the witnesses wouldn't give up. And I wouldn't blame the witnesses for, giving up their convention time either.
Well, we don't know if that's true or not. We do know, and especially Constance verifying, that we know. I remember he loved his wife Annie so much. They were very much in love. He was very happy. But I didn't know until Constance brought it out that she ended up being a Jehovah's Witness. And it does make sense that she became a Jehovah's Witness after they married.
Yeah. Well, I never knew that. That's interesting.
It is. And Constance, I'll tell you what, that woman, if nobody else can find it, I don't care how good of a researcher you are, Constance will find it. She's just a master researcher. She will find out stuff, and it's true. She'll find out. She'll have the validation. She'll have the proof. She'll have the date, the time, who said it. Yeah. So I'm not saying that what you're saying didn't happen, but to me that doesn't make sense. This was a man that
there was a lot of talk way back when, and I was one of them that went that way and was upset with him, but that's the way we were geared.
Yeah. To me, just personally, it's just an opinion. I'm not saying you're wrong, but it just doesn't make
sense. It doesn't matter. Rumor is rumor. I don't even know where I heard it, but that's what I heard. And
well, we know the witnesses are notorious gossipers. So
Well, I don't think I heard it from them. I heard it from another source. So, but anyway, it's not. That's all said and done.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't want people to believe lies about me, so that's why I had to put in my.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But okay, I will let you go.
Well,
thank you.
Guys, I appreciate your, chiming in and giving us your take on the matter. I appreciate that. That was welcome. And I hope you call in again. Is there anyone else?
Well, now and then I do.
Well, I'm glad, and I hope you continue to do so.
You take care.
You too, Miss Carol. Anybody like to add a comment, a story, an opinion? *6. Alrighty. Well, I guess we'll end the show if nobody else has anything to say. If anybody has anything to say, go ahead. This is your.
Emery, this is Donald again. I was going to ask you a question. How did, if you were there, how did last year's Be Free thing go? The thing in Washington D.C. that y'all had.
Oh, sir, I was not able to go there. I think that was Joshua and oh my God, I forgot her name. Ruby. And didn't Rick go there? Probably would be something Rick could answer.
Yeah, I was just wondering how it went.
Like I said, I wasn't there, but maybe Rick could answer that if he's there.
Yeah.
So maybe later in the show, on the other show, because Rick can't be, constantly there. But I'm sure it went well. Justin and did a really large part in making sure that everything was calm and legal and done with respect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was at BeFreeProtest.com. Yeah, or Be Free Protests.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Yeah. I wanted to go to that so bad.
Oh, yeah. Well, are you going to make it to the convention that Rick is putting on August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd over in Boston or Ferry or somewhere in there?
I would like to, but I don't have the money to travel, because I'm on a fixed income, so. But that would be cool. I need to go to that. Yeah, because I heard about that one.
Well, that would be great. Wouldn't it be great? Anybody like to have another comment or whatever? We're going to have to close this pretty quick.
You there?
Yeah, go ahead. Who's it?
Hi, this is Thomas Hodgson here from Lawrence, Kansas. How are you tonight?
Hi, Thomas. What's on your mind?
Well, I didn't get to hear the conference earlier in the first 45 minutes or so, but I wanted to mention about this letter writing that there's a number of us, probably well over 100 now, have wrote to Donald Trump, our president, and we're really going to sock it to him with letters and hoping we get a lot more letters going there. Now, we don't know where it's going to go, but we can only hope and pray that we'll get some justice, hopefully a great deal of justice, but it never hurts to try. You got to just keep plugging away at him. And, I sent my letter last Wednesday to him, and I invited him to come to our church and everything. Of course, it probably won't happen, but I told him that I'd like to talk to him over the phone, if he wants to talk. I know he's extremely busy. Maybe I could talk to one of the people that work under him or something.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens. Busy. I'm really excited about this now. Like I said, we're not guaranteed that we're going to get anywhere with it, but it's worth a try. I'm not going to quit fighting as long as I have a breath of life, because I hate, what hurts me more than anything, it kind of hurts they shun me, but it hurts me worse to see people like Rick and Joe and Tran and them get shunned by their own kids. That really bugs the dickens out of me. I just, oh man, that's just horrible. I just don't have the words. It's just so awful. And then what you went through, Anna Marie, that's terrible, man. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to do it within the bounds of the law, but I mean, it's just not right.
No, it's not right, but it's amazing. It's like in the story of the Scarlet Letter, the author asked the question because it was all about judgment and, pious religionists, thinking they have the right to judge and shun somebody. And he said the comment was it makes the audience, the reader is asked to consider, are the pious religionists who are punishing and judging the protagonist, the one that had to wear the Scarlet Letter, or is the one being shunned really the better person because they're having to bear up under this shame and cruelty in the name of religion, so are we stronger people for being able to bear up under the shunning and the horrible things that they say about us, the lies that they believe about us? And it's a good point. But it is what it is. Okay, I think we need to end the show. It has gone over time. Rick is always so generous with his time. I want to thank everyone who came into today's show. Today is February 8th, 2025, and the show is Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. And today, Rick wanted to kind of concentrate on urban legends, tall tales, phenomena that maybe can't be explained. We want to thank all of our callers today. We want to thank Ken, want to thank Pixie, Rick, Susan, Joe, Don Brown, Kurt, and June, who called in for the first time, a PIMO. We want to thank Dallas, definitely want to thank Constance. We want to thank Harold Paradise. And lastly, we want to thank Thomas Hopkins. I enjoyed the show, and I always enjoy my beautiful Six Screens family. Thank you all for calling in. And we need to go now back to our dear brother, Rick, and JW World News. Rick?
Well, thank you, Anne-Marie. My goodness, we had a lot of people listening in, a lot of people also commenting in chat, and also a lot of people on the telephone line. Thank you, Anne-Marie. And Shannon, thank you for sending me that message that you'd like to have Anne-Marie discuss that. I hope you're listening in. And if anyone else has any ideas for a program here on the Six Screens, by all means, you can write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com, and we'll bring the subject up. But tonight was pretty interesting. We had, like I say, a lot of participation, lots of people listening in. So thank you, Anne-Marie. Well, Anne-Marie will be back tomorrow. We have a program here tomorrow on Six Screens Sunday. Anne-Marie will be back on at 2 o'clock tomorrow with a program, Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses share their story of being in the Watchtower. So if you have a story and you love to tell it, well, by all means, dial in tomorrow at 2 o'clock, same telephone number, same YouTube and Facebook channel. Dial in tomorrow and tell your story. We'd love to have you tell it. So see if you can't do that. We'll give you plenty of time, up to an hour if you like, to tell your story of how you were affected in the Watchtower organization. Well, we've got more programming coming up. JW World News is coming up next right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. And then, of course, we'll keep it going pretty much after the news, say around 9:30, 10 o'clock. Normally, Dick and Constance Borgie would come on. They're not feeling too well tonight. So what we'll probably do is kind of have some open lines and kind of see what people want to talk about. So we'll have some fun. But for now, we're going to do the news. That's coming up next. So don't go anywhere. We are going to bring you right up to date on what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Thank you for listening to Anne-Marie's program. Give us about a minute or so, and we'll be back up. Stay on this YouTube and Facebook channel. Thank you.